How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing great today. Welcome back to that car vlog channel. I am Andy, and today it's more problems with this thing. This thing, more specifically, if you're not already familiar with it, is my 1994 Dodge Dakota SLT. I throw that in every time just because I want to. And what's the problem today, you might ask? The problem is this ignition lock cylinder. So let's see, we're in the off/lock position right now. Here's accessory position, which does work. Back to that. See, it has so much trouble getting back there. Turn it right to here. It's loose as can be. That should be the off but not locked. Right there should be, right about there, I believe, should be ignition on. And then start should be right here. Well, instead, that's ignition on. Maybe. There we go. Now it's ignition on. You can see the radio start up again. Well, forget about the radio. There's all the idiot lights on the dash. Although the radio should be starting up anyway. And then there should be start position, which I'm maxed out. There is no start position anymore. Pretty certain the insides of that lock cylinder are done. So we get to tear this apart and replace a lock cylinder today. Let's get on it. Now, I'm not sure how many other 80s and 90s Chrysler models used the same things, but this is specifically for a 94 Dodge Dakota with the automatic. The first thing I'm going to do here is take off the lever for the steering wheel tilt. If you don't have a tilt wheel, then you can skip this step because you don't have this lever. It just simply unscrews like that. We'll throw it up on the dash. You see why I'm doing that? It's got that little slot right there. It's going to make it easier to get this part of the cover off. And now we go under the column where I determine which one of these here Torx drivers I need. So you got two holes. You got one right there and one over here. You got this guy sticking out right here. These are Torx. See, I'm thinking a T, what is it, T something? T10 is definitely a little small. Open it up to a T15. That seems just right. So we'll get this screw and the one over on that other side out of there. And I'm thinking we also got to undo this here T20. And that's laying down there. That was kind of a pain to take off right here at this back point. Now, sounded like something broke, but I'm not really for sure what it could have been. Now let's see if we can get the top of this bezel off. Hey, that was the easy part. Thinking that part right there might have been what broke. Yeah, that's what happens when it's 30-year-old plastic. Before going any further, if you haven't already, make sure to disconnect the negative battery cable. Yeah, you know, just in case. That's the rules anyway. Do what you want to do. Bye-bye, presets. It was nice knowing you. Okay, so I'm gonna try to show y'all what I'm looking at in here. If the steering wheel wasn't in the way, this would be a lot easier. So see this little clear tab right here, which is for this little light housing. There's a pin right there behind that tab. Now in some models that might be a screw. Looks like it's a pin here. So we want to start by turning this thing to the off position, not the lock position, and push on that pin. If I can get something in here to push on that pin with it in the lock position, which is that position right there where the tab and the key line up. Push on that locking pin right there. This might be a screw in your truck or van or car or whatever you've got. Okay, push that in. Now turn it to the off position or whatever. That should pop out a little bit. It appears that it did. We'll find out. Turn back to lock. Remove the key. And nothing. Now, either I'm doing this wrong or the inner workings being messed up. It's causing this not to work right. I'm going to keep working at it. Okay, so here's the procedure. We're going to push on that locking pin. Mine's not showing anymore because I think I got it. Take and turn this thing to its off position or whatever. Very, very stubborn. Man, I just had this thing. I'm thinking because the inner workings are messed up, it's not allowing it to do what it's supposed to do. Because when I turn this thing forward, it should pop out just a little bit. There it is. Okay. Now, back to lock position. Maybe. There we go. Remove the key, and this thing should just slide out of here. Oh my God. I know I'm doing it right. Jesus. All right, give me some time off camera. Okay, and with a little bit of more finagling, back and forth with the key and whatnot, I have the lock cylinder out of the steering column, thank God. So if we can see right here, that is definitely a broken spot. That is supposed to look like that, but it's a mirror image. So definitely something broken. That piece was right about right here, and I touched it and it fell down in here. So I have a feeling I have to take the ignition switch right here off and find that piece, make sure it's not going to cause any problems. By the way, should you ever find yourself needing to remove the ignition switch in the truck, it's going to be a T20 security bit. Good thing I have some of those. Okay, so I took this thing out and turned it over and shook it hard. And if the piece of that fell out of here, I honestly don't know. That pin right there tried to fall out, and we don't want that out. There's a lot going on here when you turn that key in this thing. I did try to take this little cover off, just if those are a tiny little security Torx. Let's see, what was the size on that? T9, a T9 security, which I don't have, so I got lucky with my regular T9. I don't hear anything other than these things right here. So I'm really hoping that little bitty piece of metal from that thing came out, although I don't see it, and if it fell on the ground, well, then I'll never find it again. So let's get this thing put back on. Also, before I do that, check out this plug. Those wires supposed to be exposed on this thing? I feel like they already were, but I don't know. I feel like I need to get some electrical tape or something to insulate them. I don't want to fry my ignition switch or anything else and, you know, make the cost of this repair even larger. Here we go. It doesn't look the best, but something to insulate those two wires from each other. Some may call it paranoia. I call it, I don't mess with electricity. All right, just as an experiment, I want to see. I'm trying to see back to accessory. I reconnected the battery. Wondering if it'll do anything. Hey, look at that. So there's the position it should lock. This should be off, on, which turns the stereo. Let's see if it'll start. Hey, I can start it with the screwdriver now, which means I can take the truck to get its own replacement lock cylinder. Okay, $86 later. Of course, I spent a little bit less because I had a discount code. We have a CarQuest lock cylinder from Advance Auto. That's where I found it had the best price. So what we're looking at here is make sure the key is not in there. You're gonna line this thing up and slide it in there, and it should just mate right up with that. If it works the same, we'll turn the key forward. So we turn the key forward, it pushes itself in more. We pull it out, and now, okay, so keep the key out, insert the cylinder, stick the key in, turn it forward as you push in until it pops itself in. You can hear it lock in, and turn it back to the lock position. Okay, got that reconnected. I'm gonna need a new nut on that soon. Let's see what we got here. We got the light around the ignition switch, the Dodge thing. So let's turn this thing back to accessory position. Test out the full range of motion here. So there's our radio. Turn it back off. That's in the lock position. Oh yeah. Okay. That's just off. Ignition on. And start the truck up. So I'm talking about full range with a new lock cylinder. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've elected to remove the ignition switch from the truck and bring it inside to my very messy desk in here that I share with the wife, because this one's a little bit different from the other one. So right in this area right here, there was a separate locking pin that keeps it from popping out of its little space here, the cylinder that is, when the key is turned. But in the case of this aftermarket part from made by CarQuest, that's not how this works. Instead, you've got the little set screw deal. Now this insert's exactly the opposite of taking the old one out. Make sure the key is out so that this pin stays in. and then it just slides in the lock position. Okay, once you're in the lock position, then of course you have to take the key here. Excuse the fingers in the shot. I didn't feel it sitting on my tripod. Turn the key forward toward the start position. You may have to rotate it back and forth a couple of times. There it goes. See, it pops in. Now, turn it back to the lock position. And pull the key out. Now that cylinder is locked in there. But when you turn the key, it's going to try to pop out. Now, it's not going to remove itself from the cylinder, but it is going to try to pop out on you. That's where you got this little screw right here. Now, I actually had to tap the threads with the screw in the hole. Now, the screw may look a little long. That's fine. It doesn't really need to snug up against the housing. It just needs to prevent the lock cylinder from popping out when the key is turned. Alright, now that's running as much as I can get it, which is just fine. Now, when I insert the key into the lock cylinder and turn it, it's not going to try to pop out. That screw is going to stop it. That's what we want. Now, this should be really simple to install back on the truck. Let's go do that. Alright, so here we are. The ignition cylinder is back in the switch, and the switch is mounted back to the steering column. Now, be very careful tightening these little screws right here. That one, and that one, and that one. It is very, very easy to strip those out. I managed to strip one of them myself, but hopefully this thing's going to hold on just fine. Let's go ahead and run it through the test. So, turn it back one for accessory position. Yeah, there's stereo. Okay, there's lock position. I should not be able to move the shifter. I can still turn the steering wheel. That's a little disconcerting, but whatever. That's off position. Run position. Now we got the lights on the dash. Radio starting up again, and fire up, baby. Yeah, now we're in business. And turn it back off, pull that key out, and perfect. It's not going anywhere. And that is now trash. Biggest downside to this repair, other than the fact that I had to spend $80 on a lock cylinder, is that now my truck's gonna have two keys, one for the ignition and one for the door locks. Suddenly it feels like I'm driving an old Chevrolet again, from the same era. But oh well, who cares? At least now I can start the truck up with a key once again. And I'll get that column bezel stuff put back on off camera. That's not really that important. You saw how I took it off in the beginning. Just reverse removal there. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for the ignition lock cylinder repair on my 94 Dodge Dakota. Hopefully, if you got a truck just like this one, now you've got a video to help you change out that lock cylinder if you're wondering how to do it. It's actually quite simple, but I'm sure I managed to make it look very difficult. That's how I do things, but whatever. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, or at least found it informative and helpful, and if you did, that makes me happy. If you like what you see here, check out the rest of the videos on the channel, where I've got a bunch of car reviews and more videos on this thing already up and to come. If you like what you see there, consider subscribing to the channel, give this video and the rest of them a like. Follow me over on Facebook, Instagram at that Car Vlog channel. 2 other great ways to know when new videos go up, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.